الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم النبيين حب المحبين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم طهر قلوبنا من النفاق والأعمالنا من الرياء واللساننا من الكذب وعيوننا من الخيانة فإنك تعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور. يا معلم إبراهيم علمنا، يا مفهم سليمان فهمنا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. وقال تعالى: أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. My beloved brothers, elders, murabbis, brothers of my age, and everyone here, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We begin this halaqah by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We attempt to praise Allah in a manner that befits Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who He subhanahu wa ta'ala is, yet we are unable to accept to try to do so. We send peace and blessings upon the final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his companions, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, and all of those who became their companions. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also accept us amongst the companions of the people that came before us, and hopefully we will become the companions of people that will come after us bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, last week we started on a very important part of who we are. First and foremost, to remind myself, and through it maybe for you to remind yourselves, inshallah. And I don't sit here because I'm the most able from you, only to be able to share with you some things that I hope I will benefit for myself first and foremost, and then hopefully you will as well, inshallah. We were talking about purification of the soul, tazkiyatun nafs, tazkiyatun nufus. Now, human beings find it very difficult to maintain their submission to Allah with it only being for Him consistently. We all as Muslims, we all as believers try to strive to maintain our good action only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the beginning till the end. Yet istiqamah is the most difficult thing on the life of a believer. To be mustaqim, to be on the straight path. We just prayed Maghrib. In every rak'ah of the salah, you would have recited Surah Al-Fatiha. And we all would have asked, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. Because without the guidance of Allah, it is almost impossible to go on the straight path, and most importantly to maintain ourselves on the straight path. You can assume that you and I are on the straight path, but the biggest question is, are my deeds being acceptable and accepted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now we know that Jannah, paradise, cannot be gained through our actions alone. In fact, paradise can only be gained through the mercy of the most merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. For He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Al-Wadud Al-Ghafur subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla wa ala. Only through the mercy of the most merciful can we seek paradise. Yet we have been commanded to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not only to worship, but to worship Allah with sincerity to the deen. That's why Allah said, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. That they were not commanded except to worship, to be of ibad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mukhlisin, with ikhlas, and lahu din, to this way, to the religion. Now, the first thing we talked about last week in brief was the subject of ikhlas, sincerity. You know, there's a statement that 1 second, 1 moment of sincerity is better than what this whole world contains. For that is what Allah is looking for. You know, am I doing it for the sake of Allah? Is it really fi sabilillah? Because the word fi sabilillah is very easy to utter from the tongue. But does the heart connect with the action when I am saying that I am doing fi sabilillah? Quite often we begin our good deeds with a good intention, but to maintain that intention is so difficult. And I said to all of us a very famous Christian statement, which is the path to hell is paved with good intentions, or the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because in general, human beings are not interested in going to hell, for those who believe in a hell and heaven. Yet, even those who believe will end up in there. Why? Because of, what is it? Why? Who did they worship really? Was it the dunya and the things of the dunya, or was it the Lord of the dunya and the Lord of the akhirah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So with any action, we may begin with a good intention, but can I and you maintain it? For example, I will stand up in prayer. Nobody's here, I may concentrate even more. Some people are here, shaitan may give me some waswasa. I may think if I make my salah more longer, people around me will think, mashallah, he's a buzurgo, he's a poresgari person, all of those things. Now look where my good intention began at a very good place. But how easy it was for me to take it somewhere else. And at one level, if we continuously have this quality all the time, where we say Allahu Akbar and we begin and then we think, pleasing other people, it can fall into shirk. We have to be very careful. It can fall into shirk. It could be a smaller one, but it can fall into that. Because ibadah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the intention, sincerity, we're going to come to intention actually. Ikhlas is such a difficult thing. And I will read this statement and we will go on to our topic for today, which is about the nature of intention. So it was the writers, the authors, were saying sincerity is freeing one's intentions from all impurities in order to come near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To clean the thinking, to clean what's in our heart away from everything, to bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is for Allah. It is to ensure that the intention behind all acts of worship and obedience to Allah are exclusively for His pleasure. When the Quran describes people, often it's attributed that it's the Sahaba, the statement radiyallahu anhum wa radu an, okay, that Allah is pleased with them. That is a very high level. It is almost manifesting their sincerity. Allah is making a statement about these people, that He is pleased with them. There is nothing better than to gain the rida of Allah, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to gain the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a very, very difficult thing to do. And to especially maintain in trying to please Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the perpetual contemplation of the Creator to the extent that one forgets the creation. Can you imagine becoming someone who is a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that my life and your life become so connected with Allah that you disconnect with everything else? It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. Connecting with Allah, in connecting you are disconnecting to everything else. It's not impossible, it's possible, but it's tough. And the harder you try, the more reward you are in and with from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let us not underestimate the importance of good intentions, to have, so the importance of ikhlas in everything we do. Remember, this dunya for me and you and for the humanity is limited by 60 years, 70 years, 90 years. Particularly for you and me who believe in Allah, then what is coming after it is the most important. What will I gain from this dunya in the akhirah is the most important thing for me. If Allah is saying, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, that I created death and life to test which one of you is best in conduct. Okay? Which one of us, beginning with me before anyone else, what is my conduct? How am I with human beings? How am I at home? How am I outside? How am I in the open? How am I in the secret? Who is it for? Is really the question here. Who is it for? Is it really for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When I look in the mirror when I want to look good, is it to please Allah or is it to please the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You know, and I was saying to myself, that when you look at the mirror doesn't do anything but tell you the truth. Mirror shows you as you are or as I am. And a mirror is a very important tool. And Muslims are supposed to be al-mu'min mir'atul mu'min. The believer is a mirror to another believer. That it is out of your sincerity that you have care for your brother. If he is wrong or your sister, if she is wrong, you find the most politest way with a lot of patience and wisdom to say, this is wrong. This is not the way you are. Something's wrong. Can I help? What is the issue? To bring them back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Out of your sincerity in pleasing Allah and in wanting good for human beings, and in particular for your believing brother or sister. So ikhlas, I hope all of us have some of it. We ask Allah to give us the tawfiq to maintain it. That our ending is with ikhlas. Our ending is with ikhlas. That when we leave this earth, truly our heart is so developed with the worship of Allah that it wants to say nothing but La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. You know, when we talk about maut, and we all know that we will die, beginning with myself. Dying is not difficult, it will happen. How you and I die will be the most difficult thing. I could be worshipping Allah all my life, and towards the end Allah could test me. You find our murabbis, some of them, in the later part of their life, especially increasingly, they're developing something called cerebral dementia. Dementia is a very difficult physical, mental reality. It makes you forget a lot of things so quickly, so easily. And I pray that Allah doesn't give any one of us here dementia. And for those who have it in our family, may Allah make it easy for us. Because it could be very difficult for that person. Their memory becomes, you think that they're 80, but they're talking about things very different than their age. And to help that person to be in dhikr and so on, so is very hard. Not to say that they don't have an excuse with Allah. Definitely they have some form of excuse. But that's a difficult thing to have. Imagine leaving this world and to say the kalima is the most difficult thing for you or for me. Nasarullahi wa al-afu al-afiyah. We seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection consistently all the time from such a reality. Now, connected to sincerity is intention. When you look at Imam Bukhari's Sahih al-Jami, the collection of Imam Bukhari's hadith. Now, for those who study hadith, unlike myself, if you go into Sahih al-Bukhari, the first hadith, Imam Bukhari is such a genius. Imam Bukhari is someone that we are quite firm that Allah has accepted for what he has left behind, for what we utter of him, for how we are benefiting from him, for how the ummah has benefited from his time and will do so till the time of Qiyamah. We find that this man had contributed to nothing but sincerity in contributing the teachings and actions and the doings of the Prophet ﷺ at the highest level a human being can reach in conveying that to us and bringing that to us in generations after generation. The first hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, Imam Bukhari actually, for those who study hadith, he organized the book, the whole collection, in some kind of a shape or a form, some form of an order. And the first hadith he puts is the hadith which most of you will hear. I will just do one portion of which is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. That your actions are according to your intentions. I could stand here and show everyone I'm praying, but if my intention is that I want to please the Mulvi Sahib, then that was my intention, to be honest. I could stand in front of my parents and pray, then really I wasn't really praying. I was praying for, just to keep up appearance with my parents. You see? Yes, we teach our children to learn to develop prayer, but we enjoy it when they do it themselves. It's such a great feeling. But that requires a lot of effort and investment and time for them to be comfortable with their faith and what it teaches at home and outside home. And we as parents and guardians, begin with myself, we have to facilitate where they enjoy their Islam, where they don't fear it, they enjoy it, they like it, they want to be Muslim because they enjoy being Muslim. You know, when we can get our children to be on that level, that's a dream of a parent, of a father or a mother for that matter. So Imam Bukhari does such a valuable message for us. You know, the collection of Imam Bukhari's hadith, you know, goes into volumes 9, 10, 12, depends on how, you know, how it's printed and so on and so forth. Out of all of the hadith, the first thing he puts is innamal a'malu binniyat. That intention, your deeds, your actions are that which you intend. And the hadith continues. It goes longer. The hadith is, when it goes, the longer bit is really breaking down what he's actually talking about. The main message there is intention. The intention of a person is not his utterance of the words. This work that I'm taking from is from the likes of Imam Al-Ghazali, Ibn Al-Qayyim Al-Jawziyah, Imam Ibn Rajab Al-Hanbali. From there, you know, the person who's translated, they've looked at their writings and they've put a very nice statement under this chapter, the nature of intention. The intention of a person is not his utterance of the words. So my mouth can say, Inni nawaitu an salli, you know, that inni wajjahtu, and then nawaitu an, I say it with my mouth. It's easy. You know, a parrot could do that. Yes or no? If you teach a parrot, I've listened to parrots say shahada as well. You know, they'll do la ilaha illallah, you know, that kind of thing. What I'm trying to say, even a parrot can do that. But Allah is not asking for that from me and you, especially if we claim to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So intention of a person is not his utterance of the words. The words are merely a mechanism. But what is in this fi sudur? What is in that this place, this heart? Because that's the most important thing. You know, that is the most important thing. So the intention of a person is not his utterance of the words. I intend to do so and so. It is an overflowing from the heart which runs like conquest, inspired by Allah. At times it is made easy, at other times difficult. A person whose heart is overwhelmingly righteous finds it easy to summon good intention at most times. Such a person has a heart generally inclined to the roots of goodness, which most of the time blossoms into the manifestation of good actions. As for those whose hearts incline towards and are overwhelmed by worldly matters, they find this difficult to accomplish, and even obligatory acts of worship may become difficult and tiresome. Look at this. Someone whose heart is regularly with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that heart will find it easy and quick to make a good intention. You know, it becomes a habit that, you know, you always want to do good. It becomes your second nature. You know, it becomes part of you. You don't choose to do good. You become so regular in the habit of doing good that it's part of you. When you get to that, that's like such a pure reality. It's very hard. You know, when the scholars advise you about how to purify your intention when donating, they say keep on giving until it becomes your habit. You know, initially you might want to show this person and that person. Just keep on giving, even if it's £1 a day, £1 a week. Keep doing it until it becomes part of you. When it becomes part of you, then you're getting something, or I'm getting something. It's such a the idea, you know. So for a person who is always righteous, they will find it easy. That's why to be mustaqim, to have istiqamah, is a very important quality. It's a very hard quality. We all, like I said, in every rak'ah of salah, you and I are asking, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. The straight path must begin with who it's for. If it's for Allah, you know, you could have a path, but if it's not for Allah, what is it for? Who is it for? That's a very, very important question for all of us. So if we are regular with our good deeds, with our good actions, it will become more easy. But if it's sudden, we come in and we come out. You know, Ramadan comes, we are in. Ramadan leaves, we are also living with Ramadan. You know, living with Ramadan. Okay, you know, this is when someone develops a lifestyle in that way, having a good intention and maintaining a good intention is very difficult. Very difficult. Okay? And their heart and their time will be spent more with the dunya. They are motivated by the dunya. Consistently, constantly. You look at, the dunya is such that if you go to Gardens of Peace, you see the dunya. Those who go to Gardens of Peace regularly, you see the dunya there. If you really want to see the dunya, go to Gardens of Peace. That's where the dunya is. Because that's the dunya that we should see as dunya. Because we are only here for the blinking of an eye. They say we are only here 2 days. A day of coming and a day of going. If we really want to develop and soften our heart, and we really want to understand the dunya, go to Gardens of Peace. It will tell you what the dunya is. Very clearly. Nothing confusing. But human beings, insan, is nisyan. They forget, we forget, I forget, you forget. I buried my dad there, I go every other week. But in between that time, I'm struggling, I'm finding it difficult. But if I didn't go, maybe I would be miles away. So let us be reminding ourselves that when we develop a regular habit of good deeds, we'll find it easier to make and maintain a good intention. The Prophet ﷺ says, actions are only by but intention. This is Imam Bukhari's hadith that I began with, if you like, partially. Actions are only by intention, and every man should only have what he intended. Therefore, those who made hijrah for Allah, then that hijrah was for Allah and His Messenger. And those who made hijrah, to achieve some kind of dunya benefit, to, for example, take a woman in marriage, then their hijrah was for that which they made hijrah for. Okay, hijrah is a very big concept in Islam. Okay, hijrah is not only going from one place to another. Yet that's a physical manifestation. Every day we should be making hijrah from shaitan towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hijrah is almost reminding me and you that this life is temporary. And you and I are on a journey, constantly struggling to move away from the disobedience of Allah to the obedience of Allah. I make hijrah to come to the mosque. I could have sat home, watched the football, the cricket, and missed the jama'ah or missed the time of prayer. I could be doing this. So every day we're doing hijrah. For example, the Sahaba, when they migrated from Mecca to Medina, if there were people who made migration to go and marry a woman there, then that was their intention, nothing else. But if it was purely for Allah and His Messenger, then that's what it is. For example, a lot of our fathers who came to this part of the world, it's a very interesting question, because generally, Muslims are supposed to stay in places where they can practice their faith. So generally, it's not encouraged for a Muslim to leave a Muslim space to go to one that is maybe non-Muslim. Okay? So, for example, when our parents came and our grandfathers, I don't know if we can call that hijrah or not. I don't know. Because, to migrate for economic reasons is not necessarily the strongest reason of hijrah. If you're migrating because of persecution, you can't stay here. You've been oppressed, that's one thing. If you're going out there because you want to convey the message of Islam, that's another thing. Yeah, this is all part of this idea of hijrah. But pure economic migration is not necessarily the most noble way of looking at hijrah. But anyhow, we did not choose to come here. Those who were born here, in second, third generation. So our discussion on hijrah is very different. Whereas some of our murabbis who are here, or those who are past like my father, it's a different discussion. Some of them may have not necessarily understood this issue in this particular manner. Allah have mercy on all of them. We did not choose to be here, but we are here. And you find that maybe in this part of the world, which sometimes you didn't imagine, that it's perhaps more easy to obey Allah in some things than in some of those parts of the world. I'm sorry to say that. It's a reality, Sometimes, I find it more easier to pray regularly here than sometimes where my dad is from. Because everybody is there for Jummah, but nobody's around for We all struggle to make big masajids in Pakistan or in Bangladesh or places like that. But the house of Allah is very nice and very big. It has tiles all over the masjid, fan and all of that. But you go there, people like us, we go there, we're thinking, where's the people? You find the same people at their homes, they're probably watching Star Plus or this or that. You know, they're busy with all of that. So I'm saying to myself, you know, in this part of the world where everybody says this is the non-Muslim part of the world, I find it more easy in some things to be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not an easy thing to conceptualize, because generally in Muslim part of the world, things are supposed to be easy in terms of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Coming back to the concept of hijrah. So consistently we are making hijrah. You know, it's really about checking why are you moving from one thing to the other. Why are you going from this direction to that direction? Why are you facing the Qibla? Is the biggest question about your hijrah. Why is it? Is it when you say, إِنِّي وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّذِي فَاطِرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, so on and so forth? Is it really that I'm turning my direction? Everything about me is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it really about إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Verily, my prayers, my sacrifice, my living, my dying are all for the Lord of the worlds. It's a very difficult concept. Look at, we just came out of Eid al-Adha. The biggest message of Eid al-Adha is what? Tag, which is in Bengali is called tag, sacrifice. Yeah? You have the physical manifestation of sacrifice, of slaughtering a cow, a sheep, a camel, so on and so forth. But it's connected to the sacrifice of who? The mightiest of the messengers. One, our father, you know, the Abina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and Ismail. Can you see, when you look at the story of Ibrahim and Ismail in the story of sacrifice, do you find anything other than ikhlas? You don't find anything other than ikhlas. Not for half a second does Ismail say to his father, oh, I don't know, maybe, you know. He says, if this is a command from Allah, then you will find me as the one who is patient and with you. Satajiduni insha'Allahu minas sabirin. His father, you know, at the age of 80, looking for someone to inherit after he is leaving the world. At that time, Allah decides that, Ibrahim, you're going to go through another test. I've tested you to go, you know, make hijrah from this land to that land, to this land, to that land. You know, for for you to do run between Safa and Marwa like your wife, and you leave your family. You do all of this. Your father and his people get together and throw you in the fire. I test you. I'm also now going to test you again about your ikhlas. Who is it for? What is your qibla? Is it really me? Is it really me? Is that why you're doing it? Is that, is your ikhlas clear from the beginning till the end? And Ibrahim's ikhlas is, nobody has doubt of Ibrahim's ikhlas. Because of the quality of his ikhlas, because of the quality of the ikhlas of his son. So you look at Ibrahim's intention. Eid al-Adha is nothing but purifying our intention to make it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you imagine if the command of Qurbani was your child? You know, it could have been possible that Allah says, for those who have 5 children, one of them have to be given in Allah's way. If that was a command, we would have to fulfill that. If we really believed in Allah, if we really wanted to worship Allah, if we really want to express that we truly love Allah and we want to seek His pleasure, Allah could have made that a command. Because the 5 children you have is in the beginning given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter how hard you try to have a child, it's not just the physical effort. It has to be coming from somewhere else, from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if Allah made that, that could be a big test for us. To be able to sacrifice one of our children for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet Allah honors us by learning from the story of Ibrahim that this life and true worship and obedience is about sacrificing for the sake of Allah, is about making hijrah for the sake of Allah, and truly meaning it with our words and with our deeds. You know, if we want to check our intentions, are we the same in front of people as we are behind them? Are we the same in the mosque as we are outside the mosque in terms of our feeling with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And I say that about myself before I say it to any of you. Imam Shafi, one of the brilliant Imams, said about this hadith, he said, this hadith is a third of all knowledge. The words actions are only by intention mean that deeds which are performed in accordance with the sunnah are only acceptable and rewarded if the intention behind them was sincere. It is like saying that the Prophet ﷺ said, actions depend upon their outcome. So Imam Shafi said that, just this hadith is a third of all knowledge. Whatever you learn in your life, you can become a pundit of Islam. Whatever you learn, just this statement, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, is 1/3 of everything you learn and everything you do. Because of what it means and what it implies. This is Imam Shafi telling us. And none of us doubt the sincerity of Imam Shafi. And he is reminding us that this is 1/3 of all knowledge. So real knowledge, knowledge is information unless it's practiced based on truth and on the way of the Prophet ﷺ with ikhlas, with the right. Otherwise it's just no information. Allah is not asking for us to become information carriers. Allah talks about, if you look at Bani Israel as an example in the Quran, He talks about Bani Israel developed themselves in such a way that they became information carriers. They learned the laws of their religion and became carriers of information. There was no more substance. And he gives an example that they're like donkeys carrying books on their back. What is the job of a donkey? Brothers? Anyone can tell me what the job of a donkey is? That's it. Does a donkey say, can you tell me the weight of the item? Can you tell me what it is? How it looks like? What's the job of the donkey is to carry either a human being or a load. It doesn't know what it's carrying. So Allah gives an example in the Quran. He says, the knowledge of those people are like donkeys carrying books on their back. It's just carrying. It doesn't have any impact. Although for the donkey there is no need for impact. For human beings there is a great need for impact. Because the first word to be revealed from the highest one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the lowest, as in human beings, is iqra, to read. That reading is not just merely words, it's to connect us with our akhirah. Whilst we are here in the dunya, through the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the way of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So our niyyah, our intention, brothers, is a great quality to have, to really develop our deeds in a way that Allah will accept. Because if Allah does not accept my donations, my words, my actions, my prayers, the way I just recited to you earlier that inna salati wa nusuki, say that my prayers, my sacrifice, my living and my dying are all for the Lord of the worlds. It's an easy statement to make, but how much does it match in my reality? When I say Allahu Akbar in takbir, as soon as the salah is starting, Allahu Akbar, really, is Allah really great when I'm saying that? Because if Allah was great enough in my heart and in my life, then I wouldn't be doing accounting inside the salah, looking at how many shops I have and how much I've earned in the... You understand what I'm saying? This is for me. It's my weakness I'm talking about. As human beings, we have those weaknesses. We run to salah. I run to salah. So whatever I was running away from, Allahu Akbar, and then it starts. Everything is playing inside the first rakah, second rakah. But we have to train ourselves. Allah is so much. If Allah was to say, I'm going to hold you for the first salah you made, we would be in loss. We would be in loss. Because we all as human beings, we have that difficulty. But what Allah wants from me and you is to strive and struggle. That's what Allah wants to see. That you and I do wrong, we come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our intention begins with a good intention and it changes, we try to bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We like to give donations and we develop such a habit that it becomes our second nature. Whenever we see something, some kind of cause, just take it out, whatever is there, you give it. They talk about this, the Prophet says, he talks about donation and he connects it with intent. He said, it's like your right hand should not know what's in your left hand, or your left hand should not know what's in your right hand. It's just for this. Because you realize that this dunya is so limited. Remember I said, go to Gardens of Peace and you realize you see what the dunya is about. Then you realize that this is nothing. Real piety is not to have the dunya in your heart, but in your hands. Because when you have something in your hand, what can you do with it? You can throw it, you can get rid of it. But when it sits in your heart and it becomes comfortable, it's very difficult. You know, when it starts sitting in your heart for a long time, you say Allahu Akbar, it starts coming. That's why we have to constantly struggle. You know, sometimes, for example, nafil prayers, masjid is a good place, but sometimes for those who want to develop a relationship, do it somewhere secret. Before you sleep, do a lot of it. Nobody knows in your house except you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, even if it's 2 rak'ah before you sleep, or you're with your prayer. Some people want to get everything done in the masjid. The masjid is really for the 4th prayer, in Jama'ah. Other things you can do in the masjid if it's convenient. Otherwise, try to, and I say to myself, try to do it with Allah. You know, fasting. Most of the time, outside of Ramadan, if you fast, the average Muslim out there will not know, yes? It's one of those deeds that only Allah knows if you are doing it or not. The whole month of Ramadan, you could pretend to fast, and if that time you come and sit with everyone, and they think you're fasting. You know, so fasting is a very good example in that. Nobody knows except Allah if you truly are doing it. So our other ibadah should also turn like that. Ideally, really Allah should, people have seen me in salah, but has Allah found salah in my heart when I was here? You understand what I'm saying? That's a challenge for me and for you. But struggle is very important. That's why, the concept of jihad. Jihad is about striving and struggling. That's what it's about. And the biggest jihad we're doing is daily. Daily. The biggest jihad is what we're doing daily. 5 times a day, we're all struggling to submit to Allah on time, all the time, every time, in Jama'ah, in the masjid, wherever else possible. We're constantly in that struggle. Constantly. And Allah loves people who struggle. Allah loves people who do wrong and come back to Him. The idea of tawbah is turning back. Tawbah, the nature of tawbah is to come back. When you come back, you make an intention, the irada, that I will not go back to that. Many people do tawbah and they go back. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives as well. He is Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good intentions do not change the nature of forbidden actions. The ignorant should not misconstrue the meaning of the hadith and think that good intentions could turn forbidden actions into acceptable ones. By the way, if the action is haram, it doesn't matter how good of an intention you have, it's not going to be accepted. So for example, this masjid needs a new extension. I decide to fraud the system and bring money and then give, mashallah, Yahya brother has given mashallah 50,000. Doesn't work with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like that. The action and the intention should be pure. Should be pure. I could have a haram business and I'm doing haram, and mashallah, people know that Mr. Yahya is a big donor. Are you a big donor in sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That will be the biggest question. Not in sight of each other. Because, if me and you are desperate to get people's eyes and forget the one who made the eyes, it's a loss. It's a plain loss. So even our actions have to be correct. You cannot have a good intention behind a wrong action. You cannot do that. If something is haram, it doesn't matter how good you think it is, it's haram. You cannot steal and donate. It doesn't work. Like, donation is a great thing, but it's not acceptable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is very, very important. The excellence of knowledge and teaching. So even with intentions, we need to understand and learn about it. We need to understand the nature of intention. Okay, its qualities. You look at the Quran. The Quran says, for example, if we don't learn, are those who know equal to those who do not know? How can someone be the same as someone who, how can someone who knows be the same as someone who doesn't know? So knowledge and learning, we have a basic responsibility. I do, you do. That's why in the Sharia they say Fard Ain. Fard Ain means you have to do it. It's not, nobody else can do it for you. You have to do it. You have to make an effort. The age of Salah, when Salah becomes Fard on you, your parents have to inspire you, give you the opportunity, but you have to learn. For those who've gone to Hajj, When Hajj became fard, also learning the rules and rights and responsibilities of Hajj is also fard on them. And the way zakah is, as soon as you are going to reach the nisab point, you have to know what you have to pay zakah on. Okay, knowledge is a very important aspect to our accountability with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And behind all knowledge, it needs to be coupled with a great intention. And our intention is connected to our heart. Like we said, it doesn't matter how much you say it with your tongue, if your heart is saying something else, it's not accepted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, what we will do is next week, we will look at the heart. Not because I'm a heart surgeon, that's why I'm not telling you. We will try to look at the heart from not the physical aspect, but from the spiritual dimension for the heart, so that I can benefit. With the heart has different conditions. There's a physical, even in the heart, you have a physical side and the spiritual side. And the spiritual side has some signs of what is a healthy heart. And we will try to look at that. So the heart is of different types. So we will look at the healthy heart, and we will also look at the sick heart, so that we can check ourselves. I don't need to come and say, brother, your heart is, I don't know. How do I know what is in your heart? Who knows? You and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one else can tell you what is in your heart. We can say that if we see someone's actions very regularly, we can say, this guy is going to get up to some evil. We can have that feeling. But in general, we don't know what is in the heart of people. And this is why it is very incorrect and a wrong manner to assume bad of people. In Islam, as Muslims, we should have what's known as husnul dhan, that you have a good thought of someone else. They say, have 70 excuses for your brother before you tell him that you're wrong in this. We have 150 things to tell him, why? Not 70 excuses. Our first approach is, why did you? Rather than think, okay, maybe he was ill, or maybe he's got something. Not looking at all of those, but jumping the other way around. Okay? So we will, inshallah, next week, for me and for you, to look at the different types of heart. So you have the healthy heart, you have a heart that is dead, and you have a sick heart. And all of those hearts are whilst we're in the dunya. So none of these three hearts are, we will only, the akhirah is not to do with how healthy and how good you are, how strong your iman is. Akhirah has nothing to do with any of this. Akhirah is the time for what? Rewards. Jaza. We don't go to the akhirah to purify our hearts. We don't go to the akhirah to do a good deed. All of this has to be done whilst we are on earth. For 70 years, for 80 years, for 20 years, for 40 years, for 50. But it all has to happen here. So when we talk about heart disease, we're all concerned about our heart disease and how much food we're eating, too much diabetics, too much cholesterol. All of this is very important. But most of the time we forget about the real heart disease. How clean is my heart in the sight of the one who made me and my heart. So we will look at the sick heart, the dead heart, and we will look at the healthy, the dead heart, and the sick heart, inshallah. And all of those three hearts are within human beings here on earth. None of these hearts are to do with the akhirah. If you have a healthy heart, it's connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's here. If you have a dead heart, there are some people who live on earth, but their heart is dead. You throw water, you throw kindness, you throw all great things, it doesn't respond. Some people's, they say some people's heart are harder than stones. It can happen. Nasallallahu wa It's possible for a human being to develop their heart to such a level that it becomes harder than stone. It sees so much wrong in front of it, so much difficulty in front of it. Not a single tear comes out of those eyes, because it's become so hard, so rusty, so away from Allah, so much away from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, in the next session, as part of purification of our soul, we talked about ikhlas, we talked about intention. We will look at how our heart is also connected to the intention, and we will try to break down the heart to look at what is a healthy heart in the sight of Allah, what is a dead heart, and what is a sick heart. And it will also talk about how to perhaps develop our hearts to become much more healthier, much more alive, and away from being sick and preventing ourselves from the sickness. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for my lackings. Anything good I shared with you is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything wrong, as human being, we can make many things wrong. May Allah forgive us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people who are accepting to Him with our words and with our deeds. And I remind myself and you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ, that Allah did not command me or any of you here and people beyond here except to worship Allah by being sincere to His deen, which means to have in good intention and to maintain that good intention all the time, to connect our intention to our heart and to have a heart that is healthy, not dead, not sick. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad kama sallaita ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.